Welcome to Cats and Rats Podcast, covering your Florida Panthers.
Hey everyone, welcome to the newest episode of the Cats and Rats, episode number 33. Cody, I was looking up some names off air here. Pokey Reddick, remember that one? That's a blast from the past. I think he was
Not even close.
No? Goalie? Some
Probably
goalie.
probably before my time.
It was 94. Samuel Montembeault.
94. I was -7.
Cody, I was listening back to our Spaces episode where you're quizzing me about the 1996 Florida Panthers roster, and I think I only missed a couple names or whatever, and you put me on the spot that night. But I know our guest here tonight, he's joined us before.
What's going on, guys?
How's it going, Caesar?
It's going pretty good. I know we're recording this, and I'm watching the Cowboy game in the background, so bear with me with my shirt. I know there's a lot of haters out there. It's okay.
You got enough
I know.
Panther stuff. You got enough Panther stuff.
Yeah, we got the championship hat over here.
Yeah.
Got my hat, my new school hat too. So yeah.
Exactly. Everyone's gonna be checking us out on the YouTube channel if they're not. If you're listening to us over on the app.
The only one we're not wearing a Panthers hat right now.
Cody's rocking the teal colors here. But if you are joining us on the YouTube side, Cody, we're going to show some stuff here tonight like we normally do. And we're going to start with first. We can kind of walk the audience through it, but we're not going to go through it in depth. But it's kind of the leaders through 18 games right now as of this recording, as the Panthers head up north of the border. There's some snow up here now. I was shoveling today. So I don't know if the Panthers are going to see snow coming into Winnipeg or see snow leaving Winnipeg, but they better get their flu shots going and all that type of stuff because we need to keep rolling here. Just recently knocking off the best team in the NHL, the Winnipeg Jets.
I tried to tell you about that game, Kirby. You just didn't want to listen.
No, we can talk about that a little bit, but Caesar was at that game. But here's the leaders. Reinhart, 13 goals on the year, 15 assists and 28 points after the conclusion of that Winnipeg Jets game. Forsling leading the team in plus minus. Greer picking up some of those PIMs. Forsling leading the ice time. I don't think that's a surprise to any of us. Bennett and Reinhart, the Sam's Club members, both with 3 power play goals. That's interesting to see Sam Bennett there. Carter Verhaeghe leading the team in shots. Reinhart's shooting percentage right now, as of this recording, 27.7%. That's going to come down to regression to the mean. But Cody, I wouldn't be surprised if he stays above 20%. And then Barkov there in limited action this year as he missed some games, above 60% in the faceoff dot. But Cody, where do you kind of want to start here? Who's been a surprise to you to start the year? Who do you think is going to maybe regress back to the mean? I think overall, I would give this team like a solid A after 18 plus games of this regular season.
Regression? Maybe a bit for Bennett and Lundell due to the fact that, Barkov's back and both of those guys were extremely hot and during those times that he was out. We can't overstate the role that those two had played throughout Barkov's absence. And I expect Tkachuk to pick it up a little bit more in the back half of this year. Once again, probably another slow start.
That whole line outside of Bennett, but like Verhaeghe, Tkachuk, whoever else gets put on that kind of been.
Yeah, I mean, Verhaeghe has what, 3, 4 goals, I think?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that since he's got 66 shots on goal.
Yeah, 4 goals.
He's only got 4 goals, right? What's the percentage on that?
He's down there. I think he's let me see. He's around about 6% shooting percentage.
So, I mean, it's a little bit disappointing on his end, but it's still early in the season, so I'm not
6.1%. I'd be worried if he wasn't shooting. That's the thing about Carter Verhaeghe that to me, if the goals aren't going in for him, I'm not really too worried. We had a discussion like this on Space the other night when community member was concerned with this play.
Yeah.
And me and Kirby are kind of like we're not too worried about Carter Verhaeghe because he'll pop up eventually with a hot streak of 5 to 7 games. So I'll have 8 goals in that stretch. And people will be like, oh, there's Verhaeghe. Now he's back.
No, the one thing that bugs me about Verhaeghe, Cody, and I didn't say it on Spaces, but I said off the air to our community member, when he starts taking those lazy, undisciplined penalties, that's when
I think that's what's been disappointing in the beginning of this year is his penalties are definitely not helping us, especially since our power play kill isn't as good as it was last year. I feel like.
Yeah.
So if he can cut down on the penalties, I think I mean, he's still playing really good overall.
Yeah.
I like his game.
Like I said, it only worries me if he stops shooting.
Yeah. No, I
Just
agree.
like because we all know he has that one of the probably the best wrist shot on the team, if we're gonna be honest, and in space can rip one glove side or whatever. It's just it ain't going in right now. He's been missing the net quite a bit lately, gripping the stick a little bit. He could get better. The stats not shown here. The Panthers, as of this recording, are ninth in the NHL on the penalty kill at 83%, and they are currently 12th on the power play at I believe 21.8%.
And Cody, they were as high as sixth, or I know for sure eighth on the power play at one
Yeah.
point.
Oh,
So
so
we'll take that.
what were they at last year this time of year?
I have
Do you happen
no
to know?
idea.
They were lower. Nick had a
They were
stat
probably lower.
in front of me. It's when OEL was running the power play. I think we were in the mid-teens area.
I think we were probably about 3,
17.
4 spots lower.
Yeah, 17, 15th, somewhere in that range, maybe.
Okay.
Then it started to move up, Caesar, when Montour and Ekblad came back. Coincidence or not, Kachuk started to play a little bit better too. The power play moved into that top 5 to 8 range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, after like December, January, something like that.
Yeah.
Nick's our master at that because you can go on NHL.com. He'll pull up the different splits and you
Yeah.
can kind of see where the team's at like that. I always tell Nick, I encourage Nick to tweet that out more because those are good things that we can reflect back onto and different things like that. But yeah, I'll definitely pull the one up from you from mid-November last year. It wasn't that great.
But yeah, because it was just we were still kind of struggling at the time. I think we were struggling because we had a lot of new pieces in because
We were
OBL
winning, but I think a lot was 5-on-5 and that excellent penalty kill that Caesar was alluding to
like
last.
Yeah.
We had OEL, Balinskis was in the lineup every night. Kulikov was back in. Then you had Stedman. Like the entire fourth line last year was new, so there was just times where I don't think it was all clicking.
Yeah, Lawrence was in and out more out of the lineup, I think, that time.
But then the team got clicked right around late December, early January, and
Yeah,
that's
it was after the like after the holiday. It
it.
just
It was
that's
around that time
yeah.
because they had beat Colorado, they beat Vegas. Like they were on an incredible stretch, and once again, I mean, look what they did to Winnipeg in their last game. I mean, dominant all four lines. The first pair, whew,
I
their
think
their
we didn't
best
see
game of the year.
the best of Winnipeg there. We'll see on this rematch. But like their depth didn't really show well in that game, and you kind of got a bad Hellebuck game with rebound control. Morrissey and Scheifele, their best players, got beat on plays in front of the net. Cody, that we talk about tying guys up. It's one of those nights when we don't look good at home with Bob and our defense, our centers, like you say, our forwards aren't coming back on plays hard. I think they got burned by that a lot. And
Yeah.
that's when you see like an off night by the Panthers, which isn't too often, Caesar. And I agree with you how this team has looked. But yeah, the Jets are definitely going to have to rebound on that rematch. Do you guys want to go to Sam Reinhart next or the defense? Cody, I got a couple polls I want to bring up here. Where do you want to take them?
We can go to Sam Reinhart here in a second.
So we did this poll a couple weeks ago, and I'm still pushing back on this. Caesar, it's great to have you on here for this episode because I want to hear your input on this. Cody's going to put it up on the screen here in a second.
Yes.
Again, over on our YouTube channel side. Is Sam Reinhart getting the flowers that Matthew Tkachuk was in his first season as a Florida Panther? I feel it's a definite no. Like the numbers that Reinhart's putting up, we just had them on the screen there. If Matthew Tkachuk was doing this right now, I think the fan base would be at an all-time hysteria. And they would be like MVP, best player in the league, best player on the Panthers. And I just don't feel like Caesar Reinhart gets a lot of that love and respect. I don't know. What's your views on it before Cody pulls up some of the comments and the results here?
Honestly, I 100% agree with you. I mean, look at the contract that he signed. You could honestly say maybe he's underpaid for what. Look at Matthews and all these other players that are getting. He definitely
Draisaitl right now.
Draisaitl. All these players are getting a lot more than he is, and he's actually producing way more than they are. And look at not to compare him to Tkachuk, but you could even say he's doing a better job than Tkachuk is overall. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Tkachuk is getting like what, 10 million a year? 10 and a half?
9.5.
9.5.
9.5? Okay, so that's maybe a million more than Verhaeghe. So
Reinhardt is at 8.2, like 8.625 or something like that.
A little bit more.
And
Or
yeah,
yeah.
like our top players are Barkov at 10 million, Kachuk's
okay,
at 9.5, Reinhardt's at 8.6, and Verhaeghe's at 7 now.
so just a little under a million more, um, or a
Yeah.
little under than so about 900,000 more.
Yeah.
Cody,
So
just to jump in there, Caesar, Cody's got it up on the screen. I'll let the listening audience know that they're the numbers,
yeah,
Cody.
Yep. There were a total of 86 votes on this tweet. Is Sam Reinhart getting his flowers from the fan base like Kachuk did in the 22-23 season? 69.8%, which is close to 70%, said yes. 17% said no, and then 12.8 just saw the results. I'm at a no, and I think there is one big reason to it. It's the fact that this is Sam Reinhart's fourth year with Florida, and at the time this was Kachuk's first year. I think that has a lot to do with it. I call it shiny new toy syndrome.
Yep, Cody, I say the same thing. Yep, here with
yeah, I definitely I agree with that.
And at the time as well, like there were not that many bright spots at the start of that year either. Like Kachuk was the main one because Barkov went down early. Montour wasn't quite where he was at the time of this. He wasn't really getting his flowers around maybe January, February, right around there.
Lusto the same.
Luce did the same thing. We were missing Duclair. Verhaeghe had a slow start. Reinhardt sure as heck had a slow start that year. He didn't get his first goal to like 10 games in or something like
That's
that.
the Sullivan famous tweet.
Yeah. Like
Barry Sullivan, who no longer is in.
I think that was the year before, actually. I think that was his first year.
Oh, was it the first? It wasn't the first year.
I think it was the first year.
Oh.
Because
Okay.
he started off slow too, because he couldn't really get his footing. He was like with the third line with Marchman and Lundell.
Yeah, okay. And then he had the slow start at the end.
Because they tried him with Barkov at the start of each year. Didn't work either time. Now it does. Now they're like a top 3 duo in the NHL. But in terms of like getting his flowers from the fan base, I don't think he is. I don't think he's going to.
Quiet guy, Canadian, Barkov, quiet guy, Finnish guy. You know, they lead by example, Cody.
Yeah.
And I think fan base is there's a real push and pull on that about culture, swag, sellies. I go on Instagram with our account, Cats and Rats, make sure everyone's following us there, shameless plug. And people are like with some of our guys, I wish they celebrated more. Wish they had a better sellie. Like, are we still there as a fan base? Like we really care about this stuff, you know? Like I didn't care about that stuff when I was 15 or 20. Like, so I'm trying to look at the audience, Caesar, that, you know, they're a little younger than you and I. Like, I didn't care about that stuff. I wanted to win.
So they want our players to have more style, as they say now.
Yeah, and it's like you do see Reinhart do that a little bit too, Caesar. Like I always say to Cody, he's giving that Scorpio energy right now during the Scorpio season. He's ripping it up right now, and he gives those big
I have no idea what the hell that means, but hey,
after he scores,
listen, half the who the heck's gonna sell you on the team? Barkov doesn't sell. He scored in his hometown and he barely sell it. All he did was smile.
Verhaeghe, we were talking about him, he doesn't sell it, but everyone's like that's swaggy, you know.
Yeah, he's more of a quiet kind of guy.
Kachuk has the fist pump with the stick.
Borsley hell doesn't used to. Ekblad used to. I don't really see it out of him anymore unless he's throwing.
Yeah. Lundell, maybe the most.
Not really. Maybe.
Bennett, no.
Like you don't
maybe
really.
We don't really. Maybe Samoskevich probably celebrates.
Yeah, that's the guy that's going to get a little bit of sneaky love from like the new.
Maybe because he's more of a younger generation
guy. Right?
Yeah,
but again, it goes back, Caesar, to Kachuk. That's what everyone wants these players to emulate. If I can spit it out.
There it is.
But these players are not Matthew Kachuk, and it's good that they're not Matthew Kachuk because Cody, we talk about this. It's good that there's different elements to this team, right? And again, I do these polls because people are like, I don't know, Kirby, if you're coming from the right avenue. I do these polls because I'm like, am I reading this, Cody? And you know, Cody, why I throw the polls up because I'm probably leaning one way, but I just put it out there, see what the general public says, and it comes back, and I'm not surprised by the numbers. You know, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. You know.
But let's all give credit to Bill Zito, like building this team the right way. Like putting different style of players and creating that winning culture. And he's done it again this offseason. I really don't see this team much of a drop off at all, if maybe there is any. There, you can kind of argue maybe they're better than last year. We might not look like it on paper, but playing, we look a lot better than we were last year. But then again, Montour and Ekblad did miss the beginning of the first 2 months. So, but like I said, Bill Zito did a great job of just getting the right pieces in here and everybody just gelling and having that chemistry and not getting these ego players that only care about the stats and about themselves and stuff. So, kudos to him. I think a lot of the credit has to go to him.
That's well said there, Cody. We got to clip that for our Instagram channel there by Caesar. You want to interrupt?
I mean, Bill Zito's been the best GM in the NHL for the last 5 years. Ever since he was hired, actually. Should have
been the general manager of the year last year. I think he got robbed.
He's been robbed a couple times the year they gave it to Lou.
But I think he said it best. He's like, I'd rather have the Stanley Cup than get that. And he did. He ended up hosting that cup.
And now you see Paul Maurice getting love for these Jack Adams Awards, Cody, about how the Panthers have started this season too. So you start to get that when you win the Stanley Cup. You get these different poll results from.
But Dallas hasn't won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I don't understand that quite, how they get so much love in the market that they're in place. It doesn't.
It's just you look at
a little bit, Cody, in the regular seasons.
It's just you look at their team, you're just like, damn, like how can they not win a Stanley Cup? It's like Robertson, Hintz, Marchman, Haskin, and Harley, Onger, Duchesne, they're deep.
Onger.
Like their bottom pair is horrible, but they're deep on defense. Like that was the one thing I think they did not do well this season was their bottom pair. And speaking of defense, I think
Cody, I want to get into that because Caesar is alluding to what it looks like on paper here, and maybe it doesn't look as good on paper. And I think that's when you get to.
I don't think it's good on the ice either.
Yeah, well, I want Caesar's going to push back on a little bit because me and Caesar do have some friendly discussions on the defense. And I recently did a poll here, and Cody's going to pull it up here, Caesar. And it's not engagement farming. It's not trying to get the ire of the fan base, but it's something that I notice out there in the market right now. There is number one defenseman potentially available right now or in the following months on teams that are going to struggle to make the playoffs or are not going to make the playoffs. And I used an example of Roman Josi. Shout out to Aaron Ekblad. Thank you for liking my tweets this past week or so. I know you're checking in on
he's had two of his best games in a long time ever since liking that tweet. Him and Forsling against Winnipeg, that was masterful. Those two were actually dominant together.
I liked Ekblad's game, the New Jersey game, and I think that was before or after he saw my tweet, after he saw my tweet, somewhere around there, right after. And he played really well in that game there. So I put a tweet out here.
Maybe you should check and see if he bookmarked it.
I don't know if I can look into those advanced settings here, but on the screen here it says Roman Josi for Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett. Who says no? Nashville, what is it there, Cody? 18%?
Yeah, all right, so he says, read attached tweets before voting. As he says, cap space works for both. Nashville's obviously looking for a center. Ekblad and both him and Ekblad are both pending UFAs. And it goes as follows. It says, who says no? 18% says Nashville. 53% says Florida. 11% say both clubs. 16% say it's a done deal. This was 123 votes. And
I want to add Nick voted done deal. He told me that off there.
I think Nashville says no.
Okay.
Because
you're underselling your guy Ekblad though. What he can bring and then what
I know, but this is Roman damn Josi we're talking about here. Here's
Sam
the
Bennett, very
I'm gonna push.
I will say this though. If Nashville calls Bill Zito for this deal, I'm driving both those guys to the airport for Roman Josi. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna push back on that, and I'm gonna say no. Just because of the chemistry. I understand that. Yosi's one hell of it's Roman Josi. I mean, he's one hell of a player, but what has he done in Nashville to, get them above and beyond? What has he done more than Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett have done here in Florida?
Well, Cody, our fans talk about the Norris Trophy so much when it comes to one of our current defensemen in Gustav Forsling. That's where I would push back on Caesar's claim there. What has Roman Josi done? You can only do as much.
It's a better question to ask, like, what hasn't he done? Like,
Okay.
it's just he's a guy that you could put out there for 30 plus minutes and him not get tired. He he fixes a big hole at power play quarterback that you already have. You have a bona fide top pair of Yossi and Forsling if you go out and get this done.
Or
And
you split them up, like I said, our community code, have them play 40 minutes a night.
I understand the chemistry thing to a point, but I cannot let that stop me from getting marquee players. Because like the trade deadline last year, we had a bunch of fans say they didn't want to get anyone because of chemistry. Because I think a lot of fans are still scarred by the Giroux, Ben Sherratt, Robert Hagg trade deadline day.
But I don't even think those were really bad deals. They
No,
just
I
didn't
would do
work
those
out.
deals again. Like
Yeah.
I might be crazy for saying that, but I would do those again because one, that was the year because you're thinking Bill Zito understood the cap space situation going into the offseason. So he's like, all right, we have our one shot. Let's do this. Owen Tippett was never going to be anything here. It was
No.
already apparent. We put him on every line possible.
Power play.
And his just defensively, he wasn't a good
Yeah.
player
And
under Maurice Simpson.
Yeah. And both first round picks were 31 and 32 in the draft. So it's not like you gave up any lottery picks, even though the Giroux one was lottery protected. I'm pretty sure. The
Yeah.
Sherratt one, I don't think was. Wait, no, it wasn't because that's when Habs fans were joining our spaces and be like, "Oh, you're gonna give us Bedard," but
But I just want to push back on your guys' point. You guys were kind of debating there.
yeah,
Like those trades, Caesar, I think, said the Drew year, and he even said the Sherratt year. Some people would push back on that. They didn't blow up in our face. Caesar, I want to throw this back to you. And you could put Noah Dobson's name in here. I wouldn't quite put Rasmus Anderson's name into this trade proposal because
I think that's going to be
a little too much,
deal.
right? That would be a little too much for Rasmus Anderson. But say Dobson or Josi. Caesar, I'm going to throw it back to you. How does this blow up in our face? How does this have a potential to not work if we did that trade, the Panthers?
You can never have too many centers. So
Okay.
we're giving up a center here. And yeah, I wouldn't mind trading Ekblad for Roman Josi, but
that ain't gonna get it done.
So your kicker is Bennett.
Bennett, yeah, because I just feel like in the playoffs, the center position is so important, especially in the face-off battles. In our offensive zone.
Don't say that to Cody with Bennett. Bennett is historically our worst guy.
He's our worst.
Right. No, and I'm not saying like in the face-off.
Yeah, but I understand
what
you're
like,
saying. But I understand what you're saying. Like down the middle is important to winning a Stanley Cup, right?
Especially in the blue paint, just the forechecking, the back checking that he does, the grit that he brings us.
Hey, I'm not underselling that part, Caesar.
No, that's the part where I think that's where you're gonna miss with Sam Bennett is the playoff mentality, the playoff feel for him.
Yeah.
The thing is just when it
what
comes...
if Cody can't come to terms with his agent? We talked about this. His agent.
Let me ask you guys this.
His agent is Mitch Marner's agent. He's very hard to deal with. We have to come to grips with this at some point if he's not signed. Caesar.
All right, what's up?
Okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you guys this. Would you take a chance with Aaron Ekblad and Sam Bennett one more year to win the Stanley Cup, or trade them both and get something in return for the future?
Depends what that future piece is.
Okay, or how about this? Let me reword that a little bit. If you were guaranteed to win the Stanley Cup to have Bennett and Ekblad on the team, would you do it to win it this year or for a future player and beyond?
If I'm guaranteed to win a cup, then yeah, I'm gonna keep them. But the thing is just like I've said this in the podcast before, I don't see us keeping either of those two. Because it doesn't make much sense to keep Bennett because one, you have too many holes in the back end because you're going to lose your top pair in this scenario as well. And secondly, you have Anton Lundell stuck on the third line and he could outproduce Bennett at any time. He outproduced him in the playoffs and it's like, and he's getting and look what Maurice is doing. He's more of a Maurice guy than Bennett is, and people don't want to agree with that. But when Barkov's out, who got the first power play minutes? Oh, Lundell did. Who's out there when we need to be a big penalty kill? Lundell is. Like
I
Bennett's
Who
agree.
can move up the lineup? Lundell.
like
No, I agree.
it's just
But
that's
what do you
just
do?
That's the part of this for me and Cody, the
Yeah,
Lundell.
yeah. And I totally agree with you guys. But what do you do when it comes to the playoffs and you need that Sam Bennett pedigree that he brings?
Like my co-host Nick says, you acquire it. You go get a Trent Frederick or someone that plays that style.
yeah.
Nick,
I think we would have
Nikolai Waugh or whatever.
I think we would have a lateral move with it because here's the thing. The biggest thing with Bill Zito has the same mentality as we do. The middle of the ice is the most important thing.
Yeah,
That
he's not going to lose that.
because look at his first offseason. One of his biggest free agent signings that offseason, people don't want to remember this, was Alex Wenberg. Because he understood we had a second line center hold because we lost Vincent Trocheck in the trade deadline year before. And with Wenberg is not like a dynamic player.
No, but he did the job. He did the job. And then
he got
when
slotted.
Ryan in that deal, they're like, "What's this fourth line center?"
But that was talent, so I can't even put Zito on that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like with the center depth is, look, we have on every line we have a guy that could flip to center. Reinhart was a natural center. Verhaeghe's actually a natural centerman too. That's what he was drafted as. Lusto could play center. You can throw Boquist at center. Like we have a lot of guys that are winger center hybrids. Like Reinhart was started as center, got flipped to wing, and got moved back to center in Buffalo, and then came over here and has been a primary winger ever since he got here because he was envisioned to be the piece next to Barkov. Because remember, Huberdeau and Barkov are separated. They were looking for Barkov's wingman besides him and Verhaeghe. That's why Reinhart was kind of brought in. Originally to that deal, no one really remembers this, but we were trying to get Jack Eichel. That was the original move, and then we moved down to Reinhart when the price was too much. Because I'm pretty sure in the price it was Lundell.
And I'm trying to give Caesar additional answers here. This one's a little bit further into the future in 2 to 4 years, but I believe in a guy like Grayson Sachin that can play the Sam Bennett role on a third line and forecheck and play like that within your system. Bill Zito would love that entry level deal, Cody, and then you can put more money to your defense. Like there's more answers than one here, Cody, not just Lundell. There's multiple answers here, like a Trent Frederick, like a Grayson Sachin. How do we replace Sam Bennett? I can give you 4 or 5 answers how you can. I don't think you can find the Roman Yossi's of the world that are just hanging off of trees if he becomes available in a month or two.
And with what Caesar said earlier with Bill Zito getting his flowers, look, here's the thing. We may not, like losing Sam Bennett, we're going to lose that grit, but I have full trust in Zito that he can find somebody to replace grit. It's a lot easier to replace grit than some people may think.
Than a point per game.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think for me, more of the locker room morale because I just feel like everybody in the locker room loves Bennett for everything that he's done. And do you really want to break that chemistry in the locker room? I guess that's my real question is.
Yeah.
But how is that not done with Monter or Mason Marchment?
Because those guys left in free agency, not traded.
Yeah, they weren't traded. So it's not like they made the decision based on what they were offered and what we could do and what we couldn't do.
But Caesar, we're not just trading them and going to surprise them and pull a Jonathan Huberdeau here. By the way, Jonathan Huberdeau is a UFA or a pending UFA the following year. There would be talks with Bennett's agent here, and if they came to a standstill with the contracts situation where there is a bit of a issue there, that's where trade talks start to develop. And I think our fans maybe don't realize that. That's how trades happen in season because those talks with agent and GM don't work out. So I think that's a potential possibility with Bennett's agent because I've done some homework on him.
Yeah.
No, and I agree. And if, let's say, hey, maybe Bennett and his agent are like, okay, we're not going to find a new, we're not going to get a deal done here. Zito, you can go ahead and find somebody else, trade me, or and maybe he talks to his teammates and stuff like that. They understand it. Then I'd be for it. But
he's not going to like that though, Caesar, because he probably wants to win a cup this year. Have a chance to win a cup. But if Zito is getting any whiff of it, I think it comes from the GM then, and he goes to his people. We need to make a deal here. I don't know if it's going to be worked out very amicable.
Let me preface this by saying I doubt they ever do this season. This is just hypothetical.
Yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that this is going to happen. Everyone be upset that you're losing your favorite. There's been a lot of positive talks for Sam Bennett to re-sign, but Cody, you and I have talked about this. How much term? That's not like Zito, right? Zito really looks at things very pragmatic, and it's like he doesn't want to give up extra years or extra dollars.
And that's the thing. And the thing is with me is Sam Bennett's at like a $4.1 million cap hit. He's at right around 5 million for me
The question is, how much
5.5 for me.
How much would you pay him to stay with the Panthers?
5.5 is my kind of max.
Yeah,
I agree.
right around there.
I agree. I wouldn't go over 5.5 at all.
Once you start hitting 6, that's when you lose me.
Yeah.
Because 6 is a top 4 pairing defenseman.
And the way he's been scoring this year, he could get 6 or 7.
North of that.
Yeah, but the thing is, I could bet every dollar in my bank account that he won't do that again. He's not going to have this kind of season again.
And that's what I'm very confident with Cody on.
And people don't like to bring this up when it comes to Bennett, and that's the injury history.
Mm-hmm, good point.
Because physical game equals steep decline. I can go back, and that is the risk you take.
Prime example, Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah, and what's a better like
a center you're thinking of the past, Cody?
Like, are people gonna remember this guy, Johan Franzen?
Yeah, with Detroit. Okay.
Yeah.
Not as good a player, talent, not as much talent.
No, he's right around where Bennett's at.
Okay.
Like, that's one.
Bobby Hall was a stiff.
A popular one, David Clarkson with the Leafs.
Didn't have the sample size of Bennett, but similar style.
Like Bennett's having a career year, and I think with every goal he scores this season, the more he prices himself out of Florida. I understand that they've had discussions. I just don't see them coming to an agreement.
Cody, how about a winger like former Panther and Caesar would know him, Todd Bertuzzi? The steep decline there.
But that wasn't physical. That was just the Steve Moore incident.
No, there was his back.
Yeah, but the Steve Moore incident kind of
played into it. But he was a power forward.
Yeah, but
he was more of a point per game player than Bennett was.
Yeah, but for those who don't know the Steve Moore incident, you can just go on YouTube and find it. Really a dark day for hockey. An infamous clip.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is I
but
thought
that play style where guys like that wear down.
Yeah, like
you're like, wow, look at that precipitous.
And once again, it's just the Lundell thing because you just paid him $5 million a year.
Yeah, and there's no way you're going to pay Bennett more than Lundell.
Yeah.
Personally, just because I think Lundell is a better player.
He's going to ask for more because Lundell is coming off a rookie scale contract season.
Right.
He's like, I want more. And it's like, well, we don't really have much more than
Bennett's. And Bennett's going to get, I think Bennett's going to be closer around 6'5", close to 7 at this rate, I think, because one, cup experience. Teams value that heavily now. The physical play of the playoffs. Guess what? They value that extremely now. Like,
so it's question. This is Roman Yossi's last year too, right?
No, he has a couple more years left.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I look for guys that had 2 years or so left on term that could be potential for trade partners. And I know he's a little bit older too, Caesar.
That's the one drawback with Yossi's age.
But so is Erik Karlsson, and Karlsson might get bought out by Pittsburgh, and a lot of Panther fans are like, let's get him. I'm like, no, like he's not.
Would you be willing to? Man, just keep Bennett on this year, and then find a way to maybe trade for Yossi in the off season.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But in the offseason, I think I would go for more Dobson than I would go Yossi if they were both available, because Dobson being around 24, about to be 25, I believe.
And again, the point of this poll, Caesar, we're going to go here in a couple minutes. The point of this poll is Aaron Ekblad and Bennett, you're not going to have a higher value for them on the market. And they're also pending UFAs. So teams are willing to take them on and try to negotiate with them to sign them. If they can't sign them and you make a trade, say mid-season, Caesar, they can approach the trade deadline and they can flip Bennett and or Ekblad for assets and get picks back to a playoff team. So it's a win-win for a team like Nashville or a team that's trading for these players. I'm not just looking at it from the Panther perspective. I wrote in this tweet, if everyone goes and follows it, all the reasons for why this would work for both sides, right? So that's kind of the point important part of this.
I guess I have more love for Bennett,
Hey,
and
that's understandable.
that's just me personally, but I definitely get why you guys would do it, and you know, if Vito does end up doing something like that, I'm gonna trust in his moves because he's done nothing but do everything he can to get this team to where they're at and not make this team worse than they are. So,
No.
yeah, I'm good with that.
Anything in closing, guys, before we kind of wrap?
I mean,
So
to make it back with Caesar, I mean, Ekblad's my favorite player that's ever played for this team. Like, I mean,
Okay. I think he gets a lot of the bad rap,
yeah, because he's
especially
been
because
here
of
the longest.
he's been here the longest, but maybe because of the contract that he's getting. But is that his fault? I mean,
Listen, that's where I'll push back. That contract's actually fair. He's getting 7.5.
Yeah.
And he's playing top 2 minutes on us, and he's a Stanley Cup winning top pairing defenseman. 7.5. You look around the league, Rasmus Dahlin's getting 11.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And he hasn't even sniffed playoff hockey.
Exactly. So
Erik
no, I totally
Karlsson
agree.
got 11.5. Like Seth Jones got 9.5. Darnell Nurse is getting 9.5. Dougie's got
Yeah.
9.25 or something.
So how much is Nurse getting?
9, something like that.
And I would rather have Ekblad than Nurse any day.
People are like, I know what you could do with that 7.5 million. I'm like, it's a fair contract.
It is. No, I totally agree. And
If he was getting paid 10, I would understand. But
right. No, I agree. I agree. Question. I know we said this in Spaces. What would you do? What I guess how much would you pay Ekblad if he decides to stay just because he loves South Florida?
6. 6.5, 6.
Kirby?
Oh, I'm ready to move. I'm ready to move on. 5 for a defenseman, right-handed D, 5.75 would be about my max. Try to really pinch the numbers there and keep the term as low as you could.
6.5, 6 is fair for
4 years. If I could get him on a 4-year deal, 3 even, I would do that. I don't see how Ekblad's camp would do that, Caesar, but that's what I would look for. I would aim for the 3-4-year deal and then try to get that number low.
But
okay.
Caesar, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Caesar_inspires or on X at Big Ceaz. And yeah, those are the 2 main platforms and stuff that I'm basically on.
Kirby,
they're being on today, Cody. I didn't tell you this off air, but we're going to have a little CanesWear, maybe video ad thrown into the end here. So we're going to put that into there. Some new unboxing. So hopefully we have it ready for this episode. If not, watch out for our next episode. So again, follow CanesWear, which is pantherswear.com. Davie. So
shout out to CanesWear as well for that gift that they gave me. A nice little poster. I'll definitely it's pretty awesome. So and then that little sticker they got. So pretty awesome.
Put it in our ad description or after.
But thank you guys for enjoying. Thank you for listening. And as always, let's go Cats.